So this next session then is looking at the Deep Adaptation framework. We just maybe just do a quick show of hands. So who has read the Deep Adaptation paper? Okay. And who, maybe another show of hands, just who's sort of had a discussion about it or is familiar with the concept? But yeah. Okay, alright, so it's kind of some level. Alright, so maybe just give you a little bit of background. I think first of all what's quite interesting is apparently most academic papers are read by, on average, something like 3 people. So yeah, if you've just published one, sorry. But this one has been downloaded or consumed either in written form or as an audio recording around about 400,000+ times now. So it's clearly had quite a ripple effect. And it's written by somebody called Professor Sam Gill. I actually went and attended a sustainable leadership course that he was running up in the Lake District last year. And one of the co-facilitators, Katie Carr, is actually going to be doing a workshop with us, I think next week, on sustainable leadership. So do attend that if you can. It's going to be a webinar. And I hadn't actually read the paper before going. But I had seen that he was somebody talking about this sort of stuff. And as I sort of explained earlier in terms of my journey, I was sort of seeing it out of the corner of my eye, but didn't quite feel ready to engage with it, and thought I need to kind of get myself to some people who are talking about it sensibly. And I think it's a very courageous act, really, to sort of step outside of the mainstream and say, actually, maybe this is the state of affairs. Maybe we need to have a serious conversation about what that means. So it's not really about the science per se, it's more about if we take the science to be telling us something is flashing red on our sort of dashboard, then how do we go about thinking about that? How do we go about processing that? And so this little section here is just going to be trying to share that framework so that hopefully we can use it as a guide, personally or at a sort of societal level. I think a lot of the work they're doing at the moment is actually focused almost on training the practitioners so that there are some people out there that are sort of resourced enough to kind of try and move this thing forward. And I'd say I think it's a really great strategy and very helpful. Okay, so what is it? So it's a framework for those who wish to explore what we might think or what we might do or stop thinking or stop doing once we think a breakdown in society is likely, inevitable, or already unfolding. And that's a quote from Jeff Bendel when he was presenting to the European Commission not that long ago. Now, I think what's just important to mention here, and we just talked a lot about stories, this story might not resonate with you, that there's going to be a breakdown in society. I think that the point is more that if we think it might happen, then how best to respond. So I would say I'd invite you not to be too hung up on perhaps right now exactly what you think is going to happen. There's time for that. It's more about if we think it is, how can we go about thinking?
Can I put something in there? So just to say also that it's like, again, this is this polarisation habit of like, oh, I don't agree with that, therefore I'm going to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. But it's also just to look, it's like, well, okay, if I don't believe this or if I do, are the steps in alignment with what I think should happen anyway, in which case is it even important? And actually, can I just learn whatever I want to learn from this?
Thank you. Okay, so without further ado, there's 4 key buckets here. So the idea of resilience, the idea of relinquishment, restoration, and reconciliation. So what do these mean? Well, the first one is how do we keep what we really want to keep? How do we adapt? How do we change while keeping valued norms and behaviours? So that's sort of the definition then of the idea of resilience. I'll put this on the screen for when we're discussing, so don't worry too much if you don't have time to write them down. Maybe it's best just to take them in this first time round, because we'll keep them there. Okay, so relinquishment. So what do we need to let go of in order not to make matters worse? For example, withdrawing from coastlines, perhaps decommissioning vulnerable industrial sites, etc. I mean, we could definitely put perhaps not destroying more things and putting lots of more carbon into the atmosphere in that category.
And it can be personal, so maybe I don't want to actually go to McDonald's or fly to Spain. Sorry, I meant to say something by the way, like Brazil, just for a few days or whatever.
Okay, restoration. So what do we want to bring back? Perhaps knowledge, wisdom that we might have lost over the years, or perhaps what do we want to introduce? So for example, diets that are synchronized with the seasons. Maybe that's an obvious, easy one that we could do. Or rediscovering non-electronic forms of play and entertainment, which would perhaps make us more resilient if we didn't have energy or computers.
Table tennis.
And reconciliation. So what and whom can I make peace with to lessen suffering? And that might be my own mistakes, for example, or my own death. But it can also be between people, and that, we have a lot, we just talked about polarization, perhaps different classes, different backgrounds, different religions, whatever it might be. But, and the kind of point here really is, if we don't think about that actively, then is there a risk that actually, as things become even more stressed than maybe they are already, we go down a rather darker path, perhaps towards fascism, for example, which is, well, personally I want to avoid that. Okay, so those are the four key concepts. And so I've put them up here, and I'll leave this slide on. So what we're going to do now is break out into groups of three? Yeah, okay. So into groups of three. And what I want to just check how much time we've got. How we time?
Yeah, we could. So this needs to be about half an hour.
Yeah, okay. So
20 minutes is best, so 5 minutes each. So
yeah, okay, all right. So yeah, if you want to get into groups of three, and then for each of these four, so you might want to start with resilience. You don't have to. Working through them all. To give every person in your group of three. And perhaps you can discuss it as well, as a group, to just think about what things for you, and again, it can be, do you want people to perhaps decide if you want to think about this very much personally, or perhaps at the community level, but it's just really almost like a brainstorming. What things are coming up for you that you want to put in there, and perhaps we'll be making some notes.
Yeah, so writing down where your inspiration. If someone says something that doesn't really, maybe don't write down the things that you might want to then look at afterwards and go, oh yeah, that's it.
And if you're watching this as a webinar or as a video at a later date, then we would invite you to do this either in a group or on your own, even just starting to sort of journal down some things in there. So we'll kind of ring a bell every 5 minutes or so, just to kind of give you the sense of maybe you want to move on, so you give everything enough time. As I mentioned before, this might be the beginning of quite a long piece of work that you might engage with over time. So don't feel like you have to get everything down. This is really just to kind of introduce the framework and get you thinking about these things. Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions?
How deep are we into societal breakdown in our minds when we're considering these things?
So I would suggest that what we've talked about today is the temperature is going up, and that will have impacts and perhaps stressors, and we're not getting so much into exactly what that might mean.
Okay.
But we know that things are going to change.
Yeah.
Why we call it climate change. So it's really within this framework. What are the things that we really, if things are going to change, what do we want to keep? What do we need to let go of, or what do we want to let go of? What do we want to reintroduce? And maybe, what do we need to make peace with?
So we're not at like zombie apocalypse. We're not like
It's not like
driving out of the city in a pickup with guns in the back.
The point is, you're going to have a different idea to me, and you're going to have, everyone's going to have a different idea about what the future looks like. So I would invite you not to be too fixated on what that is.
Yeah.
But you probably all, the fact that you're here, you probably know enough about, what climate change might mean. We are going to do a workshop on that in the programme, which is looking through the So we've actually produced a campaigns guide as part of this interdependence movement, and that really does. It's online. It's a free resource. It looks more about how we might want to think about climate change impacts and resilience. So I'd invite you to have a look at that. But this really is just whatever your understanding is to kind of put it into this framework. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Sustainable breakdown ever defined anywhere? Like what it is?
Do you know if societal breakdown is defined?
No, it's open. In terms of anything, in terms of future projection, it's open to interpretation.
Like I think in the paper it says a change to then a bunch of things like transport, yada yada, but a change is quite loose. Maybe it's deliberately loose.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's going to be lots of different things, but I guess yeah, I mean, another way of thinking about it might be like a breakdown in society as we know it today. So the idea that there would be a market change from what we have now. And there's, as I say, many different ways we might think about that.
There's also an interpretation of deep adaptation which was labelled transformational adaptation, but I think of it as it's open. No one's saying this is going to happen. It's like, and actually what's more important, it's not so much important what's going to happen, but what we're going to do now.
Is that making sense for people, or do you?
Yes.